The police state ends with me. And we made it one more day. Now, all police, but especially the Bartlesville police, need to understand something. Most citizens have never been approached by a criminal with a gun, breaching their civil rights and human rights, committing crimes against them, threatening them, and lying to them, and lying about them. Most citizens of the United States of America have never encountered an armed criminal. Not like that. Until they have encountered a bad cop, or a group of bad cops, or entire department of bad cops who are armed and do those criminal things. Let me repeat a little bit of that. Most citizens have never been approached by a criminal with a gun until they have encountered being approached by a bad cop, or a group of bad cops, or an entire department of bad cops. So, most citizens that encounter a bad cop, like the Bartlesville police, well, their only encounter with a dangerous armed criminal threatening their life is their encounter with the police. Think that through, bad cops. Think that through, Bartlesville Police Department. To the citizens that you are breaching civil and human rights against, you are the only criminals we know that have ever approached us with a gun, putting our lives at risk. You are the only criminals we know. I've mentioned before, I've lived and traveled all over the United States of America and have never encountered an armed criminal in person until I caught the Bartlesville police officer that lives 2 doors down from me, armed, in full uniform, criminally trespassing and stealing from me on my property. Never. Not one time. I lived 5 years back east. I lived years up north in the Midwest. I've lived years in other states than where I am now. I've lived further south than I am now. I've traveled all over this country. I have never, not one time in my 43 years, encountered an armed criminal approaching me. Not until the Bartlesville police. I have never encountered organized crime and a group of 6 armed psychopaths armed to the teeth and knowingly conspiring to break the law, breach my civil and human rights, threaten me, damage my property, and steal thousands of dollars of my property. Not until a few hours after my first armed criminal encounter, the Bartlesville police, was escalated into 5 more armed criminals, the Bartlesville police and a Washington County of Oklahoma district attorney, that makes 6, showed back up and illegally, under the color of law, stole the security camera videos I got of the first armed criminal Bartlesville police officer because I had told him I got him on video. I've never in my life experienced or known a person such as Anthony Lynn, that's spelled L-E-I-N, that would lie before God under oath, testifying. I've never in my life experienced someone so disgusting that would put a hand on the Bible and lie to God. I know no other person that has ever done that except a Bartlesville police officer. And of course, except for Mike Moore and James Brazel of James Phillips Medical Center that lied to the police and sent them to my house to kill me, or at least put me at risk of being killed. I know no other person except the Bartlesville police that acts so fascist and as a police state, and let's also not forget the criminal and corrupt Judge Vaclaw as well involved in this, and the district attorney's office. So, to all police, hear this, and especially the Bartlesville police. To most law-abiding citizens that have never been in trouble before, such as myself, you are the only armed criminals we have ever encountered. The only thing I know about armed or any criminal behavior for that matter, but it's shocking the armed part, the only armed criminal behavior I've ever known is the police. That in itself is shocking and disgusting in what is supposed to be a free country, which is not anymore. We have no civil rights because the police say you don't and no one holds them accountable. We have no rights whatsoever. We are a police state. Let it sink in. I and many, many others have never encountered an armed criminal in their entire life, living and traveling all over this country. Never. Until they've encountered the armed criminals, that is, for me, the Bartlesville police. When I say the police have become the criminals, when others say that, we say it because it is exactly our face-to-face, in-person experience. And we all know that a single experience, or a group of single experiences even, of a single person does not make a trend. It's just basic statistics. One event, or two events, or three events, or four events, it takes 7 or more, technically, to become statistically sound. Well, so I have my experience, but I can read. I can watch YouTube videos. I see how and I can see all these police officers being brought up on charges, which of course they usually are never held accountable. The charges are just shams usually. Games. The DAs just throw the cases. But we see it every day. You take my experience and you add it to the thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of other experiences, and you end up with the police state. I just happen to know personally it's happening, and so do you, most likely. So do you. And when I say so do you, that could be someone that's been through what I've been through, a similar activity, or it could be the police officers watching that know they're doing it. The bad cops. We have never encountered an armed criminal that was not the police, the Bartlesville police. Just let that sink in, folks. This is your country. This is your police state. Now again, I want to point out that what I'm going through is awful and completely unacceptable or livable. But I believe it's about 1% of what minority folks and minority communities are encountering from this corrupt police state. I don't know how you do it. You're tougher than me, and I don't pretend that what I'm going through even remotely matches what minorities and minority communities are going through in this police state. However, even what I'm going through is too much, and it must stop. The police state ends with me. And with that said, I'll see you tomorrow.